Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias.
I showed this knife a little while ago. I think it was in the live. It was during an unboxing I was doing. I don't do a lot of unboxings, but when I was showing it, I said I would revisit this knife because it's got a nice little story behind it. This is the 93 millimeter Victorinox Pioneer, also known as the Sturdy Boy. And back when this knife was being made, this particular version of the knife, it was either referred to as the Sturdy or the Sturdy Boy, or it might have been the Pioneer by then. I can't say 100% for sure. But originally when this knife came out, it was known as the Sturdy Boy. And they were only issued in the anodized red Alox. We're more familiar these days with the silver anodized Alox knives. This is a soldier knife. Now, the Sturdy Boy or the Pioneer, whichever way you want to call it, first hit the market in 1957. And for the most part, the Sturdy Boy or Pioneer has always had the key ring down here. Now, this one, as you can see, has a key ring. So does this later one. This is a more modern version. This is from around 2010 or so. And you see there's a difference in the shield. And that is one of the reasons I grabbed this. This has what is usually referred to as the old cross. I believe at one time it was just known as the Swiss cross. Because that's what it is. It's just your white X, or in this case, it's really a silver cross, but it was on the red background, and it was known as, it's a Swiss cross, now called the Old Cross. And you see the newer versions of these knives will have the typical Victorinox shield, and that started around 1999. So I knew this knife was from before 1999, just from the photos on eBay. Also, if you see here, this is the shield. This is the coat of arms for Switzerland. That's what you see on a soldier's knife. Now, the Pioneer or the Sturdy Boy actually predates the soldier knife. The soldier knife was an outgrowth of the Sturdy Boy. This is what it started off as right here. This might be a 100 millimeter version, though. This is an older version of it. But the original soldier knife came out around 1961 or 62. I think 61 is when it was approved for production, but the first one might have been in 1962. I'm not 100% sure on that. I really should look at the book and find out. Hold on, because I have the book right here that will tell me that. This is the Swiss Army Knife Owner's Manual by Michael M. Young. And it has a lot of information in there, as well as a chronological order of when different things happen. So let's take a look here. We're going to 1961. And we see here 1961, new design for soldier with red Alox scales, cap lifter, pauses at 90 degrees, and a Victorinox style arc can opener. So there we have it in the book, 1961, but I believe the first year it was actually issued was 1962. Now, at that time, they were still using this style of awl, I believe, on it, the quarter round awl. So that would have been a little bit different for the earliest of these soldier knives, and that quarter round awl was also on the earliest of the Sturdy Boys too. So instead of this triangular style of awl, it had the quarter round that was on earlier knives, because this one, well, it just had not come around yet. Now, the interesting thing is the book says that it had the 90-degree stop on the cap lifter here. We saw that in the book. And that's kind of confusing because we also see here it says 1985 question mark flat base rather than rounded on cap lifter screwdriver, and front side Phillips to stop at 90 degrees on Victorinox models. It's kind of confusing because I don't know what they're talking about with the front side Phillips, but we do know what they're talking about with the cap lifter screwdriver, and that is this blade, and they're saying that it shows up in 1985. And that becomes problematic here because this knife has that style of screwdriver. You see that it pops to the 9 degrees. But however, the book also says that it was doing that on the soldier knife all the way as far back as 1961. So that kind of baffles me a little bit. And it kind of confuses me on as to exactly when this knife had come out. So if somebody out there knows more about what this book is trying to say about this blade, I would really appreciate it, because everything else about this knife says that it predates 1985 by quite a few years. First of all, it is red Alox, which is not a big deal, but this cross was used up until 1999, so that would fit in fine with that screwdriver, the cap lifter screwdriver. However, if you notice here, the little badge spot on the back where you could actually do some engraving, it is not on the knife yet. And this shows up on the Pioneer around 1984. So that was the first time that was used. The other thing is if you can see here, that is not dingy nickel silver there. That is brass. You can see right there, the liner down the middle here is brass. The brass liner was still in place as early as 1983. So as far back as 1983, the brass liners were still in place. Same with the for the key ring here. This is brass. That's the way it would be for pre-1984. Notice here we have now nickel silver. You also see it as a little thicker. So all of this is saying that this knife is at least before 1984. You will also see on the knives here a difference in the V on the blade. If you notice here, it might be a little hard to see, you have a large V for Victorinox at the front there. The V is slightly larger than the rest of the font on the blade. It's just a little bit larger. On this one, all the letters are the same size. And that also says before 1983. So that brings us to the can opener. And the first thing you can see about the can opener is it does not have the patent plus symbol on there. So that means the can opener, they stopped doing the patent symbol on the can opener in 1973. So now we have it down to a decade, somewhere between 1973 and 1984. That's when this knife was made. And now we have to start looking at finer details of the different tools and looking in the book at different pictures to try and get a comparison to see if we can get the date a little more specific than 1973 to 1984. And so let's try and find the can openers in the book. Well, what I can tell is the book is not going to be helpful enough. It shows some photos of different can openers or cap lifters, but it doesn't really give me the information I need, such as a date. I also checked with the Swiss Army Knives Collector's Companion by Derek Jackson, and it also does not really give me a good idea about the cap lifter on here. What I can tell is that this cap lifter looks different than this cap lifter. You can see that the way the jaw is cut and everything else. This has a larger gap here than this one has here. This has a smaller gap, and it's not as well defined. because that is a later cap lifter. But this is from the 2000s. I'm trying to determine where this falls in the 1970s. This one is from the 60s or so, and you see this one has the cutting edge inside the can opener. This is also pre-1973. So what I can really tell for certain on this particular knife, oh, this is also an older Spartan, as you can tell, because, well, we got the punch there. That's the quarter round punch that these knives would have had back in the 50s. So this might be from the end of the 50s or early 60s. However, this knife, the best I can say is probably mid to late 70s, possibly as late as 1983 or 84 on this particular knife, with the information that I have so far. What I need to do is continue to investigate, and my only hope is that I can find out a little bit more about this can opener, which is obviously a little bit different than the later can openers. You can see that by the way the cutting portion is. Notice how the gap is there. Did not find enough information in either book for covering that. There might be some information on the SAC wiki, but I don't think it's going to be accurate enough. So sometimes that's what you have to settle for also, is just say, well, it's a 1970s era sturdy boy with the old cross. Now, the thing to also remember is the sturdy boy, the first Alox knives came out in red Alox. So that's one of the reasons I like to collect the red Alox, because that's the original color of them. The silver ones came about later. And this is a good one. I really like it, despite the condition of the covers. Anyway, with that said, hope you enjoyed this. A little look at trying to figure out the exact date of a knife. Sometimes the best you can do is get it down to a decade. Talk to you again soon. Hope you enjoyed this.
Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.